Hey Wolfpack, and welcome back. I hope all is well. I am finally back, and I'm also in my new office finally, so I hope my audio quality is a little bit better. With that said, today we're reading what you guys picked last week. 3 scary fast food stories. And with that said, whether you're sitting around a campfire, on the night shift, or even lying in bed, let my voice soothe your nightmares. Have you ever seen someone fill their cup with soda first and then put the ice in? It happened twice yesterday. I was having lunch at Wendy's and watched in horror as a middle-aged woman went up, filled her drink to the brim with lemonade, and then put the ice in. She seemed shocked when the lemonade splashed all over her arm. I continued eating my sandwich, laughing to myself. But then, the same thing happened not a minute later. Her husband, a gray-haired man wearing shorts despite the cold weather, went up to the machine and filled his cup with Coke, then pressed the ice. Splash. He yelped as Coke splattered all over his shirt. What are these people? Crazy? I shook my head, biting back laughter. I watched as the man took a seat next to his wife and pulled out his fries. Let's hope he eats properly, jeez. But he didn't. He plucked out a French fry, dipped it in ketchup, and stuck the other end in his mouth. Wait, what? I watched in horror as he repeated the process. He dipped the half-eaten fry in ketchup, the same end he dipped before, and then took another bite from the plain side. His eyes met mine. I quickly tore my gaze away, and pretended to stare at my chicken sandwich. I took a few bites, checked my email, and then got up to refill my soda. I glanced up at the man. He was still staring at me. I walked up to the machine, keeping my eyes locked on the soda. I filled my cup with ice first, like a normal person, and filled it with Dr. Pepper, but the entire time I felt him watching me. I finally turned around and walked back to the table. As I did, my eyes fell on the wife. She was eating her burger upside down. The sesame seed top bun was pointing downwards as she brought the burger to her mouth and took a bite, and her husband was still staring at me. Okay, so they eat weirdly. No big deal, right? I mean, I make peanut butter and honey sandwiches, and I've put ketchup on salad a few times. But I couldn't shake the unsettled feeling in my gut. I finished eating, took my empty tray to the garbage, and dumped everything in. I glanced back. The couple was no longer looking at me, thank goodness. They were just munching away, both on the same side of the 4-seater table, staring at their food. I walked down the narrow hall to the bathroom, but as soon as I clicked the lock shut on the stall door, I heard the loud creak of the door opening, then footsteps. My heart plummeted as I saw legs under the stall door, bare legs, despite the cold weather. It was him. I was sure of it. The shorts-wearing, ice-first, weird ketchup application man. "Where are you, damn it?" he shouted, his voice echoing in the bathroom. My blood ran cold. I clamped a hand over my mouth, trying to muffle my ragged breathing. I glanced at the stall door. It looked flimsy enough to kick in. Through the gap between the door and the stall, I saw a sliver of the man. Gray hair, black shirt, khaki shorts. It was undoubtedly him. He stood still, then, slowly, took a step. "I know you can hear me," he shouted. Every muscle was paralyzed. He is going to kill me, or mug me. I should have never looked, never should have stared. The crackle of static flooded the bathroom. "I can hear you," a voice said, through an unseen speaker. Relief flooded me. Oh, he's on the phone. Thank goodness. Sam and I are in position. We are going to start in 1 minute. Be ready. A horrible tearing sound filled the bathroom. With a wet splash, the skin on his legs slowly wrinkled and warped, then cascaded to the ground. Nausea leapt into my throat, and I cupped my hand over my mouth, resisting the urge to vomit. At first, I thought he'd somehow shed his skin and muscle, and just his bones were left. But somehow, it was worse than that. So much worse. The white, bone-like legs stepped out of the skin pooled at the floor, revealing long feet that ended in pointed black nails. The thing stepped towards the door, and I saw a flash of white in the gap between the door and the wall. Then, it was gone. A split second later, I heard the screams erupt outside. Shrieking, terrible screams that shook me to my core. I leapt out of the bathroom, and in a panic, wrenched open the window. Like a coward, I rolled out into the grass and ran as fast as I could, until I was in the center of town. The next day, I saw the report on the news. 7 wounded in freak accident at local Wendy's. All injuries attributed to a small fire that broke out after the fryer malfunctioned in the kitchen. All patients are recovering well, but suffer no memory of the traumatic event. It was late, Thursday night, maybe 1 a.m.-ish. I was coming back from your stereotypical college party. I'm not much of a drinker, so I was completely sober. But do you know the downside of going to a party that only serves alcohol? You guessed it, it only served alcohol. So, it's fair if I say that I was pretty hungry. Lucky for me, I saw a sign for local McCoy's fast food restaurant at the corner of my exit. I took my exit and decided to go grab a quick burger. I pulled up at the drive-thru and waited for someone to come up and open the window for me. It took me a minute to finally look over and see there was a note taped to the window. Drive-thru closed for the night. Please go inside. I didn't retaliate. It was late, and what late-night worker actually expected customers? I went inside and immediately noticed most of the light bulbs were very, very dim, or even out. I didn't mind the darkness too much. I walked up to the counter and stood there for a minute. It took a bit, but eventually a guy, a little older than me, maybe 26, came up on the other side of the counter. He had a bit of a 4 o'clock shadow and bags under his eyes. His hair looked pretty greasy, and there was skin peeling around most of his fingernails. This guy was as good as my dead grandma. Anyways, he came up to the counter, and in a very monotone voice said, "Welcome to McCoy's. What can I get you tonight?" I looked at the menu, and then answered, "I'll just take a cheeseburger and a Pepsi." He didn't respond. He just turned and walked into the kitchen. I was getting a bad vibe from this guy, but I thought he was probably just tired. I sat down and waited for him to come back with my food. I looked around and noticed the place was a dump. There was trash all over the floor, and there were condiments splattered all over the tables and walls. It was just gross. I decided that once I got my food, I would go and eat my car. The guy came back and said, "We're out of Pepsi. Is there anything else you want?" I told him, "A Coke would be fine." Again, he didn't say anything. He just turned and walked back into the kitchen. I kept looking around and noticed something else. It was very quiet. You could almost always hear people in the kitchen, or the AC, but it was dead silent. The guy again came back with a bag and a terrifying grin on his face. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You looked hungry. I give you an extra burger on me." I was a bit freaked out by his smile and just replied, "Really? Awesome, dude. Thanks." I paid and took my Coke and bag of food. I walked out of the restaurant and over to my car. I opened the bag and took out one of the 2 burgers. I hungrily tore off the wrapper and dove right into my meal. I immediately noticed something was wrong. The burger, it didn't taste right. I was hungry and didn't care too much, so I ate the rest of it, and the next one as well. I also noticed my Coke was warmer than usual, so I just didn't drink it. I got home and fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. I woke up the next morning to an obnoxious pounding on my door. I could tell that I had a stomachache. My stomach felt contorted and cramped. Anyways, I climbed out of bed and walked over to the door. I was surprised when I found 2 police officers standing there. My eyes immediately widened as I thought I was in trouble. I'm sure the officer could sense my fear as he said in a very polite manner, Hello, is this the residence of Percy Olson? Yeah, that's me. Why? There was an incident down at the local McCoy's, and we saw you on the CCTV footage. We just wanted to ask you a few questions. Yeah, sure, but what happened? I'm sorry, but I'm unable to tell you that. Alright, then what did you want to ask me? What exactly did you order last night? Couldn't you just listen to the CCTV footage? No, the cameras in there don't record audio. Oh, I got a cheeseburger and a Coke, but the guy gave me a free extra cheeseburger. Oh no. What? I'm not supposed to say this, but I'll make an exception. Last night, at about 11 p.m., a guy named Gerald Reginald went to the local McCoy's restaurant and brutally murdered the 3 teenaged employees. Oh, God. Yeah, you were the only customer to come in that night, but he used those kids for your burgers. What? Yeah, he tore those kids' bodies apart and made your burgers out of them. I threw up on the spot. That can't be true. I'm afraid it is. Wait, I still have that gross Coke from the last night in my car. Can we check it out? Me and the 2 officers walked over to my car. I opened up the driver's side door and grabbed the Coke. I took off the lid and dumped it out. I threw up again when I saw 2 human fingers fall out of the cup. This isn't a joke, okay? I know how clickbaity the title sounds, but I'm 100% serious. You need to read this, and you need to read this now. Something you should know is that I'm almost completely deaf. Have been since I was 9. And yeah, it sucks about as much as it sounds. Was some freak accident on the road, and I barely remember it. Tonight, though. Tonight. I think it might have saved my life. Extended it, at least. I'll give you some context. I was at McDonald's, drunk with my friend Sarah, whom I had known for basically my entire life. It was about 3 a.m. She had driven us there as she was mostly sober, whereas I was watching the Muppets Christmas Carol on my phone and laughing deliriously. Or, in other words, I was completely trashed. We arrived, got a McChicken. We were just finishing our food when we heard a commotion in the car park. Going outside, we saw a small crowd silently gathered around one of the parking spaces. We walked towards the crowd, wanting to see what was happening, when an ear-splitting static pierced through the otherwise quiet night air. I ripped out my hearing aids, thinking they were malfunctioning or something. They did that sometimes, so I wasn't overly freaked out, just annoyed. I looked over at Sarah and ran over to steady her as I saw her doubled over in pain. She went limp and collapsed to the floor moments before I reached her. I shook her, shouting for someone to call an ambulance, and noticing she wasn't breathing, turning her over to try CPR. What I saw, I have no words, no explanations. Her ears were creating pools of blood beneath her eyes open but unseeing, a toothy grin etched across her face. The kind that's so wide, it hurts. I think I might have screamed, but I was far too shaken to notice. I looked up to the crowd, only to see all of them in the same position, collapsed, glassy eyes, ears bleeding, grinning ear to ear. I stepped back fearfully, fully ready to run away. Then I saw it, a cloud of static in the center of the crowd of grinning, bleeding corpses. I was frozen to the spot. I could no longer feel my hands. I think I asked why they were smiling, but I don't know why I would ask that. Who did I think would answer? Then it spoke, and despite my complete lack of hearing, heard it in complete clarity. They're smiling because they have received me. I am their God. Then it was gone. I ran back into the McDonald's, locking myself into a stall. That's where I am now, writing this. The cops haven't come yet, but I know someone will come soon. I don't know what to do, what to say. What can I say? I'm having trouble typing this. The blood is dripping onto my screen. warm and wet and flowing heavily. My cheeks hurt, and I can't stop smiling. Thanks for listening, Wolfpack. If you want to submit your own story, the links for my email and subreddit will be down below. I've also created a Discord, so if you want to join that, the link will be in the description down below as well. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And with that said, have beautiful nightmares, and I will see you next time.